Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Culture Report. I'm Antonia Velez. Spooky season is slowly winding down, but first we have to get through Halloween. If you're anything like me, Halloween has been taking up a lot of brain space between thinking about costumes, treats, and which Halloween classic I should watch each night. So today we're really going to lean into the spooky vibes while they're still here and have some frighteningly informative Halloween fun. Let's get into it. When it comes to movies and TV shows, the horror genre is not just about jump scares anymore. Experts like Marshall Smith, producer and co-host of the Collective Nightmares podcast, say that horror has really become a space to explore uncomfortable or overlooked issues, and that is fueling its rise.
I think horror media gives us a release where we have a safe space to explore topics that are often excluded or marginalized or just not something people want to focus on in lots of other genres. And those are still very important topics, and I think we need somewhere to consider those. We need a safe space where we can consider those ideas.
Smith and his co-host Laura Patterson say the genre is also mirroring real-life fears beyond ghosts and monsters. This ranges from politics to the economy. There's some real scary stuff going on sometimes. The two of them also pointed out that following the overturning of Roe v. Wade, there's been a rise in horror films about pregnancy, like The First Omen and Immaculate. Theaters have also had more dystopian thrillers that follow social unrest and economic inequality. However, while horror has the power to challenge stereotypes about gender, race, and power, it can also reinforce them.
The way the films are set up sort of inherently talk about, or they make commentary on who has more value, like what kind of person has more value than another kind of person, and what kind of person is right and what kind of person is wrong, and who deserves to live and who deserves to die, who can save themselves and who can't. And so a lot of times horror, I think, has a negative impact on society if our eyes aren't open to this.
Smith and Patterson say horror will keep evolving, giving voice to new perspectives while still wrestling with the darker sides of society. And whether we realize it or not, they say, every scream on the screen tells us something about ourselves and the world. And off the screen, Halloween celebrations are in full swing with pumpkins, costumes, and all things spooky. Now, people love Halloween here in the US and beyond, and it's a result of a mix of traditions from different places. But where exactly does it come from? Well, according to Dr. Dorsey Armstrong, a Purdue University professor, it started with a mixture of pagan and Christian traditions from very long ago. A Celtic festival called Samhain celebrated the end of the harvest season around October 31st. Now, centuries later, the Christian church borrowed the holiday and renamed it Hallows' Eve, putting it the night before All Saints' Day on November 1st. From there, people in Ireland and Scotland slowly developed something eerily similar to what we now call trick-or-treating.
There was a legend about a man named Jack, who was a blacksmith, who had a contest with the devil. And he wins the contest, which means he never has to go to hell. But there's a catch, in that he also doesn't get to go to heaven. So according to legend, he wanders around in limbo, knocking on doors, hoping for someone to let him in, either to heaven or hell. And he carries as a lantern a turnip that's been carved out with space for an ember to light his way. So children in Ireland and Scotland and parts of England would often, around the time of the harvest, go knocking door to door, pretending to be Jack, asking for help from the people who answered.
Dr. Armstrong says Halloween eventually became a celebration in America and Canada after a wave of Scottish and Irish folks migrated to North America around the 19th century. Curiously, she says, traditions like carving scary faces into pumpkins, well, that was already a thing in the US even before it became associated with the holiday. Other traditions like the orange and black colors, the scarecrow icon, and trick-or-treating really solidified as part of Halloween as we know it around World War II. We're at the peak of spooky season, and many of us might look to things like scary movies and haunted houses to stay in the Halloween spirit. But what if I said you could find some of the eeriest scenes just outside your doorstep. If you're in Denver, you could be living next to some notoriously haunted spots. Some of the city's neighborhoods are said to be packed with spooky history. That's exactly what companies like Twilight Ghost Tour want to show you. Here with me is owner Bill Bradshaw. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So give me a quick summary of what this tour is and why you came up with this idea.
Well, as far as me coming up with it, I have always been interested in history, and when I moved into the Capitol Hill neighborhood in 2011, I started doing research on those beautiful historic homes, and I realized just how incredibly haunted they were, and I started just digging deeper and deeper. And about 5 years later, I decided to start this tour company as a platform just to kind of share my knowledge and my enthusiasm about the area.
That's so fun. What are some of the most haunted spots in Denver? Where do you guys go?
Well, there are plenty of them. In fact, every house we stop at has some type of haunt. The most haunted areas in Denver, really, I would say the Croak-Patterson, the Peabody Whitehead Mansion, the Molly Brown House is very haunted, the Dunning-Benedict. And then, not on our tour, we do this on another tour, the Oxford Hotel is haunted. So some of the places that you may visit and not even realize. So.
Oh, interesting. That's right around 9 News too. Some of those you mentioned, like pretty close by. It's kind of scary.
It's an old neighborhood, and unfortunately, a lot of people have passed away in those houses. So it does create a little bit of a residual effect in the house.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like the histories behind some of these spots. Like, what are some of the most notoriously haunted places, and what's the lore behind them?
Well, I would say let's start with the Peabody Whitehead Mansion.
Okay.
It is really the most haunted dwelling in the city of Denver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was completed in 1889. A man by the name of William Riddick Whitehead built it, and he was a surgeon during the Civil War, and he also served in the Russian Crimean War, so he saw a lot of carnage. By the time he moved into the house, he had already started kind of mentally separating himself from reality, and he was not doing well. And so there's a lot of haunts tied into him. They think some of the patients moved into the house with him, some of the patients that didn't make it. He had a maid working for him named Ella or Eloise, and she decided to take her own life at the house. The house has had so many different incidences of problems. And then the second owner, his name was James Peabody. He was our 13th governor. Also not a very popular governor. He was very hated. So between those two powerful men, there was a lot of stuff that happened, including 2 different suicides or took their own life. And then also another incident that happened that we probably shouldn't talk about on the air, but it's just something that you might be able to see if you watch the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, because it's been spotlighted on.
Oh, these are featured on.
Yeah,
that's
it's been featured
interesting.
on Zach Bagans' Ghost Adventures.
Oh wow, that's a popular.
Yeah. And then the Croak-Patterson, or otherwise known as the Patterson Inn, which is a boutique hotel, extremely haunted. 1891 is when it was built.
It's old.
It's old. And so they have had so many different things happen in that house, and it still goes on today, including 2 sets of Doberman Pinscher dogs that have jumped out of a window to their death.
Oh man.
And let's see what else has happened. There has been reports of phone lines tied up endlessly, cribs with babies in them swinging back and forth wildly. Shadow people have been seen in the house. And then we had Mrs. Patterson who lived there. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, they both died in the house as well. They call Mrs. Patterson the lady of the house.
She's the lady of the house.
She's also known as the lady in white. So she runs the house, and you see her all over the house.
So I'm sure you hear about these reports of people seeing these sights, terrifying sights at that. But what are some of the things that you all have witnessed in the tours? Like, tell me a little bit about that, because I'm sure you've seen some crazy stuff.
We have seen all kinds of crazy stuff. It's really interesting. all of us as guides, we go out there knowing we're there to entertain people and to educate people and to, be kind of moody and creepy. However, the experiences that we have on this tour are so impactful. We too get creeped out.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure.
It's very unsettling sometimes the things that have happened because we've captured orbs many times. Shadow people, fully formed apparitions, which I think we may be showing on the screen from time to time.
Yeah.
That right there is at the Dunning Benedict, and that lady was not on the tour.
Oh, wow.
Did
you take this picture?
I did not. One of our guests took it, and you can see she looks like what looks like ectoplasm coming out of her mouth.
And what is that?
It's just like a fog that comes out of people's mouth. Mainly where they see it a lot is when they conduct seances. Back in the old days, they would take a picture of someone who was conducting the seance, and they would see this big fog coming out of their mouth, probably a release of the spirit. And that's what that is. And she has that. By the way, that was in the middle of August. It was probably 95 degrees, and she's wearing head to toe fur, vintage fur.
Wow.
So
that definitely was not a member of your tour.
Nope.
What about this one?
Yeah, this is actually at the Peabody Whitehead Mansion. If you notice, he has the same effect around his face, which his face is missing. So he's got that ectoplasm right around his face. And like I said, no face. He was not on the tour. This was a tour that I was on and was conducting. So I was standing in the back. Where he's standing is where I normally stand. Our customers don't stand there. And I immediately looked around to see if this person was on our tour, if there was someone dressed like that. So
well, that is just frightening.
That gave me chills. Honestly.
Yeah, well, yeah, certainly. Well, that's pretty crazy, Bill. I'm sure a lot of people would love to join these tours and learn more about the history of Denver. Maybe see something like that. And, if you want to learn more, you can go to the Twilight Ghost Tour website, twilightghosttour.com. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And something we love to do here on the Culture Report is shout out to the people in our communities who are making it better and brighter. But this week, we're highlighting folks who are keeping the Halloween spirit alive. So first, shout out to Lisa Fitzgerald and Donna Tavener for bringing some serious Halloween spirit to the town of Brush. The couple combined their love of Halloween and football to create quite the spooktacular display. It showed a legendary face-off between the Denver Bronc Ghosts and the Era Zombie Cardinals. See what we did there? The two completed it with a skeleton cheerleading squad and a looming 12-foot-tall skeleton coach named Mr. Bojangles. And one university in Colorado is bringing a Halloween tradition back from the dead. Senior Adam Collins had only ever heard about the haunted houses that Western Colorado University used to host, but never actually saw one. So, using a space in the Masonic Lodge that was recently donated to the university, Collins and a team of helpers have set up a spooky scene to ensure Gunnison has a haunted house this Halloween. It'll be open tonight and tomorrow, Halloween night, and there's going to be a kid-friendly version between 4 and 6 p.m., but from 7 to 10, organizers are promising a truly terrifying time. WCU students and kids under 5 can enter for free. K through 12 students pay $5, and general admission tickets are $10 each. And finally, the University of Denver also raised an old Halloween haunt from the dead this year. Earlier this week, DU finished up its haunted ghost tours, featuring spooky tales rooted in real stories from around the campus. From a spooky painting of Mary Read that's rumored to watch students as they walk through parts of the Mary Read building, to the ghostly presence of her daughter hanging around Marjorie Reed Hall, organizers wanted to share all of the fun and little-known haunted history of DU with students and community members alike.
I absolutely think it's important for folks to know the history of this area. There's a lot of history that goes into any campus.
Being able to share those memories and experiences really creates a lore around DU and gets students excited to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
The organizers say that now that the tours have been revived, there's a chance they could return next year. As always, we'd love some help to figure out who deserves a shout out next week, whether it's one person or a whole organization. We want to hear about the people who are making a difference in your community. So send us a text at 303-871-1491 and tell us about the folks you think deserve a 9 shout out. And don't be surprised when we reach back out to ask you more about your special people. And if you want to see more Culture Report or any of our 9 News content, you can find us on the 9 News Plus app or 9news.com. We'll be right back.